everybody. My name is Emily Root. I'm the Director of Ecological Programs at Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper, and I'm here with Dave Conti today, who is the Chairman of the North Tonawanda Botanical Garden organization. And we're here at the North Tonawanda Botanical Gardens on this beautiful day, and we're going to walk you around and show you some of the really great improvements and exciting things that are going on here. So just for some context of where we are located right now, in case anybody's not familiar, the address here is 1825 Sweeney Street. So we're in North Tonawanda, obviously, and we are near the intersection of Robinson and Niagara Falls Boulevard for some context. So the site, I'll talk about. So we are along Tonawanda Creek, and a fun fact is that the lower, about 11 miles of Tonawanda Creek is the same as also the Erie Canal. So as they were building the Erie Canal, they utilized the lower portion of Tonawanda Creek to chart the path of the canal. So it's a really cool bit of history here as well. So this property is actually owned by New York State Canal Corps, and they have an agreement with the City of North Tonawanda for the maintenance of the property, and also the North Tonawanda Botanical Garden organization, who also does a lot of maintenance on the property. So there's a really great group of partners here that we are working with. So right now we are standing next to our Living Shoreline project. So this is our latest project that we installed here. So I'll just start by giving a bit of a background of the program, and then we can look at the features of the site. So as our region was developed and industrialized, a lot of the shoreline habitats along our waterways were developed. Were either usually hardened or mowed. So that really has affected the health of our waterways. So when shorelines exist in a natural and healthy state, they provide a lot of important benefits. So they provide filtration of runoff, which improves water quality. They provide really important habitat for fish and wildlife. So 90% of lake and river life rely on shoreline habitats for at least a portion of their life. They also help to protect from erosion and reduce property loss. And they also help to shade the water, which keeps water temperatures cool. So when there's no shade, water temperatures heat up. That's going to increase the amount of algae. And we know that too much algae is not good, as we've seen with the local harmful algae blooms that have been happening. Actually, some have been happening not too far from here. So through our Living Shoreline program, we're working to restore these shoreline habitats to a more natural form and help bring back these really important habitats. So we do this through restoring the gentle slope between the water and the land. We provide protection for the shoreline through using like recycled tree materials like ash trees and boulders, and we install tons of native plants. So we'll get to the importance of native plants in a little bit, but I'll just point out that we are standing next to the Habitat Cove here. So this site used to be totally flat and all mowed shoreline, and the shoreline actually just was a straight line, basically from where we're standing to the break wall there. So we came in and we brought back the shoreline to create this really nice cove and this really nice shallow water habitat. You can see all the different species of plants here, and so these shallow water habitats are really important, and as I said, a lot of them have been lost. So we estimate over 80% of coastal wetland habitats have been lost from our region. So restoring this type of habitat is really important. You'll see pretty much every time I come here, I see hundreds of minnows already using this shallow water area, tadpoles, frogs, you see birds wading through here. It's really a very biodiverse place already, and we really just planted these plants. So it's only going to grow better over time. So it's been really exciting to see that. So yeah, I think we'll take a walk. We're going to show you more of that site, but first we will stop over here to our Perennial Garden. So Dave will talk a little bit about what's going on over here.
So we got a grant about 12 years ago, and it took us a while to get rolling on it, but we now have a perennial farm and a shrub farm in here. You can see some of our frames that we have started with perennials and shrubs. And if you take a look straight down, you can see the beehives that one of our members just got started this spring. So we have quite a few projects going on here. This project is going to be essential to what goes on in the rest of the gardens. because we're propagating a lot of the plants that are going to go out in the entire 11 acres here. So this is a project that's going to help us sustain this whole 11 acres.
Wow.
And then you can also see the greenhouse over here. So the Botanical Garden organization has really brought the greenhouse back to life, and they're growing a lot of native plants and other plants that are for sale at times. You can check the Facebook and you'll see when we're having sales here, and they're also used to plant throughout the property as well.
So we're going to round the corner here and start walking through the shoreline restoration. And some of the trees that you see in here, some of the trees and shrubs were brought to the Botanical Garden organization quite a while ago from Waterkeeper. And we kept them growing, and they were planted in this project last fall. So we have some tulip trees straight ahead. There were our native plants here. They're grown right from the seed right here in western New York. And as we get down to the corner here, we're going to see some bayberry that were rescued by Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper a few years ago. And we kept them growing in our tree farm at our wastewater treatment plant. And then we had the chance to get them transplanted into this project last fall. Actually, you might be able to, as you just come around, you can see a bunch of them right in front of you there. Oh, and
We'll pause for a moment here.
Yeah.
So you can see this is a really cool feature of this project. So we call this a check dam. And so all the water that's flowing from this large parking lot, which is an impervious surface, so that means it's not going to retain any of the rainfall when it falls on the ground. So it's just going to flow right over this huge parking lot, and it funnels into this area and then further into the project. So this is just helping to prevent erosion as the rain comes through the area. So it does come at a pretty good speed. So it's going to funnel into our bioswale. So that's basically a fancy word for a depression in the landscape where water collects. And we have a lot of native plants growing in there, which are going to just soak up that water and filter out any pollutants. And actually, this bioswale extends all the way into the creek. So any excess water will go into the creek, and vice versa. As the flooding, if there's ever flooding happens, it will come and flow into this area and be absorbed by these plants. Do you have anything else to add to that? But
I think one of our
friends.
One of our
A couple of our
residents.
friends, our killdeer friends, are here. They've been absolutely loving this site since we restored it. So they're having fun over here.
So what we've seen over the course of the spring is we're seeing killdeer in here now instead of the geese that ran over the open lawns that were
Yeah.
here. So
Yep.
we all know why we don't want geese around.
And as I mentioned before, this was totally flat, so it's hard to tell the transformation, but just imagine flat mowed lawn. And actually, a portion of this was the parking lot, so we also reclaimed a portion of the parking lot to natural habitat. So all these mounds and depressions were all created through the project to help kind of funnel the water as it flows through the landscape. Oh, I guess we're
So here's a shot of all the bayberry. I think there's 9 of them that were put in, and a tulip tree right in the center there. Those are pretty fast growing, so we should see those get pretty big fairly quickly. So now we get a good shot of the hardened shoreline that Emily was talking about. And this is what you really don't want for a shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the boat launch, and you do need a permit to launch. So you can go to the North Tonawanda Parks Parks Department office to get a permit to launch here. We see a lot of activity here, so it's a great place to launch. Also a great spot to fish.
Yep. We have a few anglers here today, enjoying the scenery and the fishing. Yeah. Well, this is a nice view.
Yeah.
Here. You really get an idea of how the shoreline was restored.
Got the Habitat Cove. We got some pickerel weed and
Blue flag
blue
iris.
flag iris. We have some milkweed coming up.
I think there's some
Some
penstamen in there also.
Stamen. There's some buttonbush on the other side. I forgot to mention that, but
Yep.
and then a lot of this area is going to be a meadow, so that's another really important habitat for pollinators. So right now you see what is mostly a cover crop that's coming up, which we apply for the first year of the growing season after we do these projects. So that just kind of helps to hold in the soil and keep everything nice and green, while the native seeds that we applied, they take a little bit longer to come up. So next year you're going to see a lot more diversity here, but we're already seeing, as I said, a lot already. So we're still wrapping this project up. There'll be a couple more plants installed, some final touches like educational signage going in this summer, but it's mostly complete, so we're really excited. And also just wanted to mention a big thank you to our partners. So we really just want to thank the North Tonawanda Botanical Garden organization and the city for believing in the vision of this project and being bought into it and working with us on it, because we're really excited about it. And so it takes a lot of partners to support the vision and maintain it. So just wanted to mention that as well. So thank you. All right, I think that's it for this, and so we can continue on.
Sure.
Should also note that this project is funded by the Greenway Ecological Fund as well, so we also appreciate their support of the project.
I think one of the other things to point out too is that from the shrub farm to the shoreline restoration to the boat dock to the kayak launch, this whole section of the shoreline was done with different funding sources. So it's all been done with grant funding. And this is probably at least half of the shoreline at this park. So it's always important to get the tax dollars back and get them back into your community. So we're doing our best to make that happen.
A newly installed monofilament recycling bin, so everybody fishing here can use this to recycle their monofilament, and so we will collect that, and once we have enough we'll send it out and get it recycled. So it's really exciting that this is here. This was supported through NOAA, and we're also partnering with the Niagara Muskie Association to maintain these bins. So yeah, I'm really excited about that feature of the site. And then now we're nearing the kayak launch, so this is a great spot to launch your kayak totally
the students are getting their photos down there.
Oh, I was gonna ask.
We get weddings, receptions booked down here at the gazebos to do the pictures.
So we're getting into the garden property, or part of the property. So I'm going to turn over to Dave to talk a little bit more about the Botanical Garden organization, some history of the site, and then we'll show you some cool features as well.
So this site got started around the 1950s. It's the original date of the greenhouses. It's about 11 acres. It was called Holiday Park at one point. At another point it was a garbage dump. So there's a lot of things underneath here which have been remediated. And about 5 years ago, a small grassroots group got in here and decided that they wanted to see this park brought back to what it was in the past and also extend it into the future. And I saw a group of hardworking people, and I asked them if they'd like some constructive criticism, which they said yes, and ended up being chairman of the group. So now we're incorporated, where we have our 501c3 status as a nonprofit, and we are actively fundraising and managing all the gardens in this park. So one of the things that is very big in our organization is we like to have sustainable projects, which means we want things that are maintenance free. So if we want to take a walk in this direction here, you're going to see a transformation. When I first became involved with this group, this area here was about 5,000 square feet of ponding water. And we actually have pictures of ducks paddling around in it, because it was about a foot deep. So it's a lower depressed area. It has a lot of clay underneath it, so it acts like a big bathtub. So our first project was to get some blue flag iris planted right in the deepest area. And after we got that started, we planted some red lobelia around it. And then as we kept coming closer and closer to the edge of the pond, we put some hibiscus in, Joe Pye weed, columbine, lupins. We also have blue lobelia and I'm not remembering the coneflowers. I'm sorry.
Purple coneflower.
Yes, purple coneflowers. So as this project progressed from that clump of blue flag iris in the center and got bigger and bigger, we don't have water ponding here anymore. And the understanding here is that we took an area that was difficult to mow because it was always wet and you couldn't get the tractors in there. And now it doesn't have to be mowed because it has perennial plants in it. And all the ponding water is gone because that's the source of water for all these plants in it. So now we don't water this area. We don't use insecticides on it. And once in a while we'll come out with some natural herbicide. We'll mix a little vinegar and soap and hit a few stray weeds that have taken hold in there. But by and large, we don't do much of anything with this area. And it just continues to grow. And we're at kind of a bad time right now for a good visual show because the columbine is just ending, and the lupines are all done. The blue flag iris is also done. In about a month, all the red lobelia will be up and the hibiscus will be open, and then the hummingbirds will be zooming around here. And if you come out here in the afternoon, they put on quite a show. And our plan is to get this, right now we're at about 1,000 square feet, and the entire area that used to pond is about 5,000 square feet. So every year we just keep adding to it until we get the whole thing filled, and it'll be a nice sanctuary for the hummingbirds and lot of species of butterflies and be just a great habitat for all the native birds. And let's not forget bees too, because we have our own beehives on site here, and so we want to create some great pollinator areas for them also.
We want to talk a little bit about the importance of native plants as well. So native plants are those that are indigenous to the region. So they're from here. They're adapted to the climate here. So they're mostly very hardy. They don't require a lot of watering or maintenance. So they're great for landscaping with. And they also provide a lot of benefits to pollinators and wildlife, as Dave said. So a lot of times people landscape with plants that aren't native, excuse me. And also a lot of invasive species also take over some of the more natural areas in our region. So there's been a decline in truly native plants in the area, in many areas. So through the work that the garden organization is doing here and a lot of other partners in the region to kind of revive those truly native plants is really exciting to see. Really going to benefit all of the native pollinators and bees and insects that really they rely on those to survive. So it's totally necessary to keep everything intact, the whole system intact, because as soon as we lose those species, everything falls apart. They're also important to pollinate where our crops, where our food comes from. So there's so many really important factors here, and this is really exciting to see the extent of the work going on here.
Well, you brought up a great point that the native plants don't require much maintenance because they're suited to they're well adapted to the conditions we have here. The other thing that probably a lot of people don't know is that the timing of these species is critical. So your pollinators in the area are used to certain plants blooming at certain times. So it's really important to have those native species here because that's what they're used to, that's what they expect, and that's what keeps them here. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep the pollinators here. We want to keep the birds, the bees, the butterflies. We want to keep them in this area.
There's a lot of other exciting things happening around the property, so I encourage you to come check it out. There's an awesome butterfly garden. There's an outdoor room that is growing right now. You can kind of see over there the teepee-like structure. So there's going to be some vining plants crawling up that. It'll be really, really fun to see. Yeah, a lot of really cool stuff. There's a gazebo here you can rent. A lot of people have weddings or events here. Yeah. Anything else
you might even get a good shot of the Pollinator Garden straight ahead. It's in full bloom now. So
Oh, wow.
that's done by one of our members. She takes meticulous care of that and gets that going every year. And at this time of the day, there'd just be so many bees and butterflies buzzing around that thing.
Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to share that we are having some cool events coming up. So we already had our annual cleanup, but we are also this year doing a Buffalo River focused cleanup. So that is starting actually tomorrow through July 3rd. We'll have lots of opportunities for both in-person cleanups all along the Buffalo River as well as solo sweeps. So check out our website. We are in need of volunteers for that. So please check that out. We'd love to see you there, or if you want to go solo, that's also great. We can use all the help we can get to keep our waterways clean. We appreciate the support of all of our volunteers. So you can check out more information at bnwaterkeeper.org/cleanup. So pretty simple to remember.